Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
Episode number 80.
We are octogenarians.
Yes, and it's a big one, too.
Oh, yeah.
With Peter Tomozawa, the CEO of the Seattle World Cup Organizing Committee. He's going to come on and break down the games that we now know will be played in Seattle. The teams now set, the times now set for the World Cup in June and July of 2026 after the drawback in Washington, D.C., and he just has an amazing story to tell. I want to encourage people to stay tuned and listen to the full interview with Peter Tomozawa, who had a bit of a health scare in the midst of all the planning here for the World Cup. And he also is going to tell us about a special event you'll hear about first here on Inside the Arena coming up in January related to the World Cup. But that's a bit later in the show.
It's going to be amazing, and we talked about it. I really like the lineup of games. You've got Team USA and Australia, as Brad Evans, the Sounders and USA former player, told me. The Australians like to party, so it's going to be a good time. But also, if Team USA, first of all, wins Group D, and then after winning Group D, advances to the round of 16, we get them in Seattle one more time. And that would be the last game in Seattle, and what a way to go out if that all came to fruition.
That would be July 6th. And yes, Peter explains all those weird dynamics. I can't even follow the round of 32 and the round of 16 at this point.
It gets crazy, but you just have to find like your little bullet points. Okay, yes, if they do this, but yeah, some cool teams like Egypt's here. They've got a great player, one of the best in the world. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see.
Well, let's get to what we like to start the show with every week. What's good, what's bad, off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. It's four corners. We like to touch all the bases. Niko, what do you like this week?
Yeah, well, this is actually going to be part of an interview we bring you next week on Inside the Arena, but this is timely this week because the auctions start to end on Friday. Keegan Hall, if you're not familiar, is a local artist who is incredibly talented, does just amazing work drawing, and it's amazing. The drawings are done in pencil. They look like real photographs. It's incredible. So what he's done is original artwork for 10 Major League Baseball players, and it's done in 4 stages, and these have now become part of the Topps Update baseball set in 2025. In other words, you can pull an incredibly rare original Keegan Hall drawing as on a baseball card. I'm already seeing some on eBay getting pulled and they're going for over $1,000. Like, that's how rare they are, and that's part of the collectibles business these days. But what Keegan's doing and what I want to talk about first is a real positive. Over time, his artwork has raised over $800,000 for charity, which is incredible. You know, he's in Seattle and raises money for great causes here and great organizations. He is auctioning off his original print where the cards came from, if that makes sense, that he has on hand, that he autographed, true one-of-ones, if you will. And the auctions are live, and we're talking about guys like Shohei Ohtani, Julio Rodriguez. And again, this is all going back to, help great things in Seattle eventually in the long run as well. So it's really cool to see, first of all, preview what we'll tell you next week about how Keegan's artwork is showing up on these Topps baseball cards. You can go to be exceedingly rare to get it, but you could conceivably open a pack of cards, open it, and get this. But also that he's turning this into another positive for our Seattle community, and that's incredibly special.
Can he do any of the artwork of Cal Raleigh down on the beer at Climate Pledge Arena this week?
And the hot dog, too. That was great.
Oh, Cal. The legend of Cal Raleigh continues to grow.
How do you not love Cal Raleigh?
Well, and he's, I think, going to maybe get a slugger sometime this week that can hit around him, at least if you believe what we're hearing out of the winter meetings.
That's the hope.
That's the hope as he backs up the big dumper. Hey, I'll continue to go off what you were saying off the top, Niko, in terms of the World Cup fixtures. Yeah. I've had a couple of people say, "Oh, Chris, I don't know about this Belgium-Egypt game off the top, right?" And that's not England or Spain or Portugal or Argentina. That is actually a game that a lot of soccer aficionados are going to be watching because you have a couple of the biggest players in the world there on Monday, the 15th of June. That's going to be the first match in Seattle. Belgium and Egypt could also end up training here in the area, and you'll hear Peter talk about that a little bit later. I like the idea that potentially Italy is also playing Wednesday, June 24th, if they can get out of the European division. They still have to qualify. They're still one of the top teams in the world, but not as good as they have been in the past. That would be nice to see in Seattle. And Egypt and Iran is going to be an interesting set of circumstances in that fourth match, and we can get into a bit later. But as you said, the U.S. potentially playing here. Belgium could end up playing all the way through as well in that round of 32 or round of 16. And then you look up I-5, and this is where it gets fun. When you start talking about Australia is not only playing in Seattle, they're playing in Vancouver. New Zealand's playing a couple of games in Vancouver. Qatar is going up and down I-5. We're going to see those groups of fans moving around Western Washington and the lower mainland Canada for this event. And it's somebody asked me the other day, is this as big as having the Olympics in town? And I said, it's probably bigger.
Yeah.
When you talk about all these teams and people who travel for just one of these matches and hang out in a city.
Yeah, and I think that Gianni Infantino said it best. He's like, how do I best describe it to Americans? It's 104 Super Bowls. And if you're not a soccer fan, you might be kind of balking at that a bit, but wait till you see the way this city is taking over. In other words, especially if you live north of Seattle proper and you're trying to commute south in, when some of these fans, say Qatari fans maybe are trying to drive down I-5 from Vancouver, just give yourself like triple the commute time. Yeah. But it's going to be really once in a lifetime. Once in a lifetime.
Well, what don't you like this week?
I just, I feel like every week you can pick something new with the college football playoff and college sports in general. I know you're going to talk about something with it too, so I want to stick to the college football playoff. And here's the thing. You have Notre Dame opting out of a bowl game. And I know that's not necessarily local, but it just kind of underscores the larger picture. I'm going to round it out locally in a second. They're upset that they didn't get in the college football playoff over a team that beat them head-to-head. Now, there's a gripe that's to be had there. The idea being that heading into the weekend, they were ranked ahead of Miami. Neither team played, yet Miami leapfrogged them. Now, that's a little bit silly. Now, if you look in the abstract, if you look at the two teams' resumes, Miami beat them and has all the numbers are similar, if not in Miami's favor. So Miami deserved to be in my opinion, over them. It's just how they leapfrogged them without playing. And then you have the Notre Dame athletic director, Pete Bavacqua, saying, well, the ACC had an open campaign against us. You don't play football in them. Of course they're going to have.
Yeah.
Like, he's mad that they lobbied for their football member over them. Like, dude, join a conference. And this is, this isn't meant to bash Notre Dame constantly. They're a couple thousand miles away. And they did this to themselves being an independent. They did this to themselves. They didn't join the ACC in football. You don't have an argument. It's just to underscore college sports and college football is broken. The calendar's messed up. And I want to give one positive in this negative. Kudos to UW, Jedfish. They're playing one of the earliest bowl games, the LA Bowl. It's not the most prestigious bowl. They were probably with an 8-4 team, probably do a better match. Jeez Louise, you scared me there, Phil. Probably do a higher matchup. It's just more for TV. And by the way, the game's on KOMO, which we love. But was that a Cougar or a Husky? I'm talking about Huskies. And but Jed has no opt-outs. They're playing in the game. And that's that. And in an era when so many people opt out, that's a breath of fresh air. But otherwise, college football is kind of broken.
Well, and I think people are already writing these stories about the bowls may be obsolete in a few years because so many schools have opted out that were either 6-6 going through a coaching change, which I'll mention in a second, whether it be Notre Dame, whether it be other 5-7 schools, just deciding they don't want to travel, that it's cost prohibitive now. Maybe you don't get as much money back for spending all the money on the travel. And the Cougs, by the way, they're going to be in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl.
There you go.
A noon kickoff in Boise on a Monday. I'm sure there'll be people watching at home that have the holidays off. But the Cougs also getting a bowl out of this as well. And speaking of, how about this for a transition? Have you heard what happened over at Washington State University?
Be 3 coaches in 3 years.
Jimmy Rogers says, I haven't even been here a year, and I'm taking off to Iowa State. And, hey, face it, this has happened before. Jim Walden, then the coach of the Cougars, went to Iowa State. We've seen coaches take off after a year at Washington State. What makes this one just a little dirty is that he's acknowledged, as has the athletic director at Iowa State, that they had a conversation at a certain point in time years ago where Jimmy Rogers said, I would love to coach at Iowa State. It would be a dream school. And the AD said, go to another school in between and work on everything as a coach there before you come to Iowa State. So Jimmy Rogers has had this in the back of his head. Jimmy Rogers, who has sat in this studio with us here inside the arena. Preached loyalty, said he was a loyal guy. He went to Washington State with his eyes on Iowa State.
Yeah, I believe his quote was, not here, but at his introduction press conference, that I'm loyal. I know that's been an issue. It almost like takes a little subtle jab at Jake Dicker. And then he says, I was in one place for 19 years, South Dakota State, for a reason. Well, didn't come to fruition. And I know he said, well, it was never my intention, but it kind of was.
Yes, it was his intention. He's admitted it. And the athletic director has admitted that he went to Washington State as a loyal guy, but he was just waiting for that Iowa State job to open up. And allegedly, according to the athletic director at Iowa State, before he could even offer him the contract or say how much he was going to pay him, Jimmy Rogers said yes.
Which, no offense to Ames, Iowa, which I've not been to. I'm sure it is a lovely place. But Iowa State isn't exactly like the Notre Dame, USC, Blue Blood, LSU, Alabama coaching job of the world. Where they're like, you know what? No matter what, I'm going to Iowa State. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's Big 12, but I've also looked at the numbers before. Iowa State, both in major conferences there. Washington State, as a state, has more people, twice as many people living in Washington State that are viewers of college football than the entire state of Iowa.
Like I said, the system's broken, the calendar's broken. There's a reason why in the NFL you can't talk to a coach until they're done coaching a team. There's a reason free agency doesn't start until about a month or two after the Super Bowl. College football needs to, if they wanted to pretend to be professional football, then they need to adapt a similar schedule.
Yep. Well, we'll just take a quick supersonic minute before we get to Peter Tomozawa. Not a lot to say this week. I'm not even going to hit the air horn. Just wanted to say thanks to Lenny Wilkins. Once again, a private ceremony last week with the family, and a lot of people came out for that. A lot of former Sonics legends. It was great to honor his memory and once again be reminded of just what he has done on a local level for philanthropic causes and just the mentor that he has been to so many adults and young people outside of basketball.
Absolutely.
And speaking of a guy who I think is going to leave a legacy as well, his name is Peter Tomozawa. He is the CEO of the Seattle World Cup Organizing Committee. He has been at this from the start. He was the first person hired by the organizing committee. He left the Sounders to really put this all together for the city of Seattle. He's going to tell us what he thinks about the draw, an event that is coming up in January, who could be training here full-time, and a personal health scare he had while putting this all together. You're going to hear from Peter Tomozawa right after this break.
Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook, is your place for a true in-game betting experience. Download the Snoqualmie Casino Sportsbook app to get in on the action while watching your favorite games at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Details at snowcasino.com. Seattle's closest sportsbook, Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
All right, I think we can officially call you, Peter, a friend of the show. You've been on multiple times here now inside the arena.
I think it's third, but I adore you, Chris Daniels, as a human, and I love being on the show. So thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming back after what was a big week for the organizing committee. After all these months and years of planning, we finally know who is going to play, for the most part, in Seattle for those 6 matches. What jumped out at you with the way the ball's dropped with FIFA and the fixtures that have now been assigned to Seattle?
Yeah, it was really exciting. As you said, it's been many, many years in planning on this, and now we know who's coming to Seattle. And I think what jumped out at me was the USA opponent. Australia playing on Juneteenth is an amazing storyline, and we're gonna explain why that is as we get into the tournament. But Australia is an amazing opponent for us. We still have one position that's not known. We're going to have Belgium in here, of course, top 8 team in the world. But the the team that's unknown right now, that group that they're in, it's a choice between it. It's a playoff between Italy, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Bosnia-Herzegovina. So if you just looked at the world rankings, it would be Italy, which would be amazing. And so, we'd have like a top 12 team in the world. We've got the USA top 16. We got, Belgium top 8. And then we have Egypt, Qatar, and Iran. And I think that's an amazing group of games. But I think what I'd love for your audience, our audience, to know is the USA. What really stuck out to me is they have a real chance to win their group. They're in Group D, and their group, if they win their group stage, then go on to the round of 32 and win that game, guess where their game is going to be in the round of 16?
Seattle.
Right here in Seattle. Exactly. And so that would be just such an amazing result. Our city would go just crazy. And having the USA men's national team here twice, the only other city that could possibly do that is LA because they have 2 group stage matches. But to have such a meaningful game in round of 16, that's just a dream. I shouldn't be talking about it because I'm probably jinxing it. But at the end of the day, we've had amazing result, I think, for the draw. I'll tell you this, this whole weekend, our whole team's been working. I spent my whole Sunday greeting representatives from Team Australia and Team Belgium. They came out to see the Renton facility after the Washington draw, that Sounders Longacres or the Saunders Clubhouse, they call it, Performance Center. And it was really fun to take them around and show them our great facility there. They're really excited about being in Seattle. And then I met this morning with the folks over from Team Qatar. They are equally as excited about being here. They will go off tomorrow and visit the training site in Spokane, Gonzaga University. So all in all, this is all starting to get really real, Chris.
Yeah. How does that work with we know that you and I have talked before. The Sounders training facility has been offered up as part of the package here for one of these national teams to train at and make a home base. You just said Australia and Belgium toured. Qatar is here. Who gets first dibs on making that their home base?
Yeah, so basically the teams come out, the ones that are playing in the West Coast, they tour the different facilities, then they make selections based upon what they like. They're going to calculate distances and sort of team rest, and there's a whole matrix of things that they have to go through. But each team then submits to FIFA their top 3 choices, and FIFA really run kind of an optimization program around which teams, like what their requests are and all those sorts of things, trying to minimize distances for travel, taking consideration preferences by the teams. It's a really complicated thing. So we expect to know where those home base camps assignments will happen by the end of March. And why that's important, Chris, is these teams show up 2-3 weeks before the tournament. Not only do they bring their team, they bring their family and friends, but they bring most importantly their fans. And so Renton is a city that's really excited to welcome whomever decides to come in. I've spoken to Mayor Pavone, and he's so excited about the prospects of the different cities, nations coming to his city. And we stand ready to have a lot of to welcome them and have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the grid here between Seattle and Vancouver with the 7 matches in Vancouver. You can see why it would be enticing for Australia, why it would be enticing for New Zealand, which has a couple of matches in Vancouver, Qatar, as you mentioned already, and then Belgium. Correct me, doesn't Belgium have first dibs based on their world ranking?
Well, that is part of my understanding is that's part of the matrix of things. So if Belgium has a higher ranking, but they don't rank Longacres or Sounders Training Center first, then that probably doesn't happen, right? So it's all based on preferences the teams have. And Each team is, they're out there. I know Visit Seattle and the Seattle Sports Commission people are out there with these different teams touring different hotels. And so there's a whole group of people working in the background that are part of this whole process. But it ultimately comes down to what the team managers want to go and where they want to be. And they'll figure out what's best for them. I mean, they asked some really interesting questions, like what time is there noise ordinances in the area that the hotel is in? Like, would it be loud music after 9? Those are they're asking all those kind of questions. And, it's clear they're serious. They want to win the tournament. So they're trying to do everything they can to make that happen.
Well, and I think people who are not soccer aficionados looked at that first match on June 15th, Belgium versus Egypt, and probably didn't realize that there's going to be a couple of players, two of the top 10 players in the world and most followed players in the world are likely going to be playing in that Group G game.
That is going to be amazing for, like you said, soccer aficionados. That Belgium-Egypt game is one of the more enticing matches in the sense that you have all these top mega stars potentially playing in that game. Belgium, we just talked to them, and like I said, they're so keen on wanting to win this thing. They're going to bring their best, and that's really what this whole tournament is about. They're bringing out the best players, the best in the world. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Mo Salah is their Egyptian star. He's the star for Liverpool. So the fans that don't know a lot about soccer pretty much have all heard about Liverpool's soccer team, and Mo Salah is their number one star.
Well, you and I have talked quite a few times over the last week or so, and about various issues. But I know that you wanted to go to the drawing back in Washington, D.C. You were kind enough to throw a party at Stoop Brewing on Capitol Hill for the official watch party for the organizing committee. But you had wanted to go back to DC, but something happened.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. By the way, we held it at Stoop's Brewery. I recommend any of your viewers to go there. It's an awesome place. The ownership there is incredible. They were so welcoming, and we had about 600 people attend on a Friday morning in Capitol Hill to attend this thing. There was such great interest. We had so many of our city officials there, and it was just great environment. It was just a tremendous, everything you can hope for in a watch party was there. Yes, I would have loved to have gone to Washington, but I'm not allowed to travel. And the reason why I can't travel is just before Halloween, I had emergency brain surgery. Long story, but I have a family history of it, and they had to clip an aneurysm, a vein that was about to explode in my head, which would have probably resulted in almost certain death, or at least, in the best case, I would have had life-altering paralysis, is what the doctors told me. So it's kind of hard to believe. I mean, probably don't look. I'm looking at myself in the camera, and it doesn't even look like I had brain surgery, but I got 14 titanium screws keeping 20% of my skull together, and I got a titanium clip that's holding my vein together. But somehow I got out of the hospital in 5 days. I've been working the phones, just working. Maybe that's just who I am, but whatever. Since that point in time, and it's just I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so grateful for our friendship, you and me, Chris. I'm grateful to my doctors who saved my life. And we live in the best part of the world. The technology that allowed me to live, and the technology that allowed me to participate in my son's wedding 3,000 miles away. He got married 2 weekends ago in Melbourne, Australia. I got to go in and participate, just like I'm talking to your fans right now on Zoom, basically. And it was awesome. So it was really a privileged experience. And so for some reason, I don't know what they touched my brain. They shook some stuff around, but at the end, I feel rejuvenated. I feel 20 years younger in my head. Like the mental acuity I'm experiencing right now, like my brain's on fire. And I just am so grateful to be alive. My doctor said, hey, you know, there are two types of patients that come out of surgery like this, that of those that can even talk. They're the why is me and woe is me's. And then there's the euphorics. And Peter, you're on the far end of euphoria. I go, well, I got a lot to live for. And, you know, we got a big World Cup coming and I don't have time to rest and recuperate like they keep telling me to do. And anyways, it's been a really amazing experience. You know, I don't recommend this mental acuity I'm feeling. I feel like I'm 20 years younger in my head. Now, I don't know if that's psychosomatic. I don't know if that's, but I honestly feel so refreshed. And I just, the doctors say there's potentially there's a reset region in your head. Like you know, when your computer gets gummed up, you know, what's the first thing you do? You turn it off and you turn it back on.
Control Alt Delete.
Yeah. Well, somebody Control Alt Deleted my head. And, and I just got a new lease on life, and I'm so grateful for that. But there is a weird thing that did happen to my brain, which maybe your audience might find interesting or not interesting, but somehow I have a new or different relationship to sound. And what I mean by that is I had for my son's wedding, I had to get the father of the groom speech. I thought it'd be sweet to do it half in Korean and half in English, you know, that speech, because my son's marrying a Korean woman and her family's from Seoul, and half of them don't speak English really well. And so I don't speak Korean, but I was practicing trying to enunciate the words. You know, I was going into Google Translate, and I was terrible. And so I couldn't get it right. Then I had brain surgery. I hadn't practiced since brain surgery. Then my kids call me and say, hey, we have the tech person here, and that we can Zoom you into the wedding. You'll be able to participate. And I said, well, okay, great. And then they said, Dad, you need to send the videotape of your speech. I go, why? I'm going to do it live. And they're like, well, just in case the tech fails, we'll have a backup tape. And then, you know, I go, oh, okay, that's pretty smart. And I'm gonna lose the Korean bit because I'm not any good at Korean. You know, I don't know the language. I can't enunciate the words. It's really difficult, and I haven't practiced. And next thing I know, they said, please try, Dad. I go, but I don't want to say the F word inadvertently or something like offensive. And they're like, Dad, just try. We have enough Korean speakers on the ground, and they'll tell us if it's any good or not, and we'll edit it out if it's horrible. Anyways, out-of-body experience. On the third take, I nail it. I really feel like, oh, I think I said the words right. I send the tape off, Chris, and my kids call me back and they said, Dad, that was unbelievable. The Korean speakers all here are like, that's totally fine. And anyways, it gave me great confidence. I started practicing more. And then when I had to give the speech live, it was like, oh, I nailed it. And the people there were all cheering. I even tried, and it was crazy. And then, at any rate, I talked to my neurologist about this, and she said, "Yeah, that we've heard of people like accessing parts of their brain that they hadn't been able to access for long periods of time after we removed their tumor, but never really this." And I became so fascinated with this idea. And then what happened was, she thinks, like, because I'm so far on the end of euphoria, so glad to be alive, that some endorphins have kicked in, struck some neurons that hit some synapses and allowed me to like be able to enunciate Korean. And she's like, do you have any like background in this? Like when you were a kid? And I go, no. And she goes, tell me how you practice. I said, I listened to this tape over and over and over again. And she goes, aha. It was imprinted in your brain, and somehow you're able to access. We can't figure it out because we don't know what's going on. But anyways, they think I'm like a 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000 kind of case. I do not recommend brain surgery or near-death experiences to try to feel the way I do. But I am going to work on this after the World Cup. How's that? That's where
you were already a smart guy.
Oh no, I was really mad at the surgeon. Like after the surgery, on the day after the surgery, they told me what they did when they removed 20% of my skull and did all this stuff. I was so mad. I like, guys, you had my skull open and you didn't give me a 5G NVIDIA chip or an upgrade for my brain. Come on. And they're like, well, that's not really truly available. And I was just kidding. But I would have loved an upgrade for my brain. But honestly, I feel this burst of energy I haven't felt in so long. And honestly, if I could give everyone in the world a sip of how I'm feeling right now, I would gladly die for it tomorrow. Honestly, it's just amazing. I feel so alert and alive, and it's just incredible.
Well, friend, I'm glad you're here. I know the people that you're working with to make the World Cup happen in Seattle are thrilled that you're here, and this is going to be a fun journey. It's
going to be a great journey, and Chris, you have been a great friend ever since I've known you, ever since we did Drinks with Daniels. You remember that? I
remember that.
Yeah. I taught you about sake, and I brought a bottle of sake for Chris, and now I think you go to a Japanese restaurant, you can be very, very comfortable with knowing what to order. But at any rate, we're really standing ready to welcome the world. We're going to have a Celebrations of Nations on January 15th. I hope you're going to be there. We're going to invite all the general consulates, and we're going to start talking about what's going to be happening in Seattle in 2026. Stay tuned. I would love to be on your show again to give everybody the calendar, but let's wait till after the new year to do that, because if we tell them now, they're not going to remember. And we just have a beautiful program leading into the World Cup. We're going to have the World Cup. We have some amazing things we're going to do post the World Cup, and all will be revealed. But rest assured, this is going to be a once in a lifetime amazing experience, and I couldn't be more excited, as you can kind of tell in my voice. But mostly, I'm grateful to be even here to work on this.
January 15th, the next big one, the Celebration of Nations. Peter, thanks for doing this, and continued good health and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you and your whole family.
Okay, so a quick postscript there. Just so happy that Peter is healthy and well and still going forward here on planning the World Cup. There's been one issue that has popped up here in the last week as we've discussed the fixtures now that have been announced, and that is that the Egypt-Iran game has already been designated the Pride match. And people have been saying, well, Egypt and Iran are two countries that look poorly on gay marriage and LGBTQ rights. So there is a statement I wanted to pass along from the World Cup Organizing Committee, and reading it now in part. They're saying football has unique power to unite people across borders, cultures, and beliefs. The Pacific Northwest is home to one of the nation's largest Iranian American communities, a thriving Egyptian community, and rich communities representing all nations we're hosting in Seattle. We're committed to ensuring all residents and visitors experience the warmth, respect, and dignity that defines our region. They are moving forward with their planned community programming outside the stadium during Pride weekend and throughout the tournament, partnering with LGBTQ plus leaders, artists, and business owners to elevate existing Pride celebrations across Washington. So I think there have been some questions here since the announcement on that Friday and Saturday of the fixtures. Everything is going to move forward with Pride Night during the World Cup.
Yeah, as it should.
Yeah.
And just like you said, like the statement says, just everybody keep it professional. Let's celebrate soccer. Let's celebrate Pride and have a great night celebrating everything Seattle brings to the table on both fronts.
Well, it's been a busy week. 80 episodes in.
Wow.
Should we finish them like we start them?
Yeah. How about it, David Lee, for the 80th time?
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.